All right. Okay.
So after break, so we are going to the second topic. It's related to the project management framework. Okay. Just now, I believe in the earlier session, you guys can understand what is the design process. Correct? You need to correct requirement from the client, and then you need to know what is the design specification or the design guideline. And then you only start to do modeling, and then you then start to do the design and come up with output. So these are the process. Of course, in the project management also got a process. That's why I define this now. Project management is the combination of the art and also the scientific approach or the process to make sure successful to achieve the defined goal and to get a unique or special services or product within a certain time frame. Yeah. So remember, this is a project management. So of course, before we start with the project management process, I need to share with you guys about what's a project management framework. So first, you guys need to know what's a project life cycle, and then what's the difference between project life cycle and also project management life cycle. And then of course, these are the mapping process group in order for you to achieve your performance goal. This one is under the PMBOK. Later I will define you guys what is a PMBOK. And then the next two items will be the project management focus area and project management process group. Okay. We have the process to do the design, okay? But we also have the process to do the project. What is the process? First, you need to start the project, right? Second, when you start the project, how you start?
Define the goals and
Sure, right? You need to define what is your goal. And
that's part of constraints.
money.
That's also constraints.
You have the goal, you don't have money, also cannot. Okay? And then you need to know time, duration to complete this. Correct? You need to have your goal, you need to have your time, your money or your budget. More proper define, we name it as a budget. But this one, limit money. And then within your certain duration. So this is a define and planning. When you define it, you need to plan about how you achieve your goal with how much budget that you have, by when you can complete. Some can be 3 months, some can be 6 months, some can be 9 months or 12 months. And then when you define already and also doing the planning already, you need to start to execute it and also implement it. How you execute and how you implement it, later I brief you guys the process. And then after you implement it already, you need to close the project. You cannot leave it open. Correct? Why? Why project must close? Why? You're right, that's the end date. Smart already. Okay. And then, according to the PMBOK, PMBOK basically is defined as the project management body of the knowledge. It's under PMI or the Project Management Institute. It's one of the US recognized institution to support to recognize project management professionals. Because in engineering, we got professional engineer, for the project manager also need to have professional project manager. Then that is only fair to the project manager who work hard. Okay. And okay, under this PMO, here and define a project life cycle is a correction of the general sequence and sometimes overlapping, okay, of these project phases, whose name and numbers are normally determined by, first, depends on what kind of industry that you are in. Launching iPhone product is under marketing, it's not under a construction project. It's under marketing, but it's also defined as a project. Okay? Constructing a data center is under which industry? Construction industry. Okay. So it means actually the project management is very wide. It's not only limited to the construction. It also can be limited to marketing. You are doing a marketing product, or you are doing an event. You are organizing an Olympic, or maybe just as what I started earlier, you are organizing a talk, an event. So that's also defined as a project. So in other words, if you are the project manager, it's not only limited to a certain industry. It actually covers every industry that whatever that you involve in, as long as there's a three characteristic that I mentioned just now. What's that already? Unique.
Temporary.
Define goal. Yes. So basically, in this PMO, it just tells that how you are as a project manager, how you manage the project by using this scientific approach. Okay, it's a scientific approach. It's not a soft skill, it's a hard skill also. It's an approach by using a more proper way. Then we name it as a scientific approach. And in this scientific approach, there's a certain process that we need to understand. Okay. So I just say a typical example for construction project. Okay, in the construction project, when we start the project, just now we got how many process? Start and then define or planning, correct? And then implementation, and then last is closing. Okay. So in this, you start a project, how you want to start? You cannot just say that, hey, I want to start with the project, then start it. You need to have the conduct feasibility study. You need to find for the land, and you need to know the land, what kind of project is suitable. Either it's a commercial, either it's industry, either it's residential. So that one we name it as a facility study. And then after that, when you conform with purchasing the land already, you want to develop for let's say residential. Correct? Then for residential, you need to start to do planning already. What kind of the house or what kind of product that you need to sell? In that land, you cannot just build for a terrace only. You got so big of the land, you need to do planning. Maybe in the first row you are doing the terrace, then after that you are doing a CBD, and then maybe it's a bungalow and high rise or short lot. If you have so big of the land, unless you have the limited, your land is so big, so small only, so you only can build maybe 10 number of the house, terrace only, because that area is only built terrace. So again, we come back to this. Why construction or developing of the project is defined as a project? Unique product, because you are building a terrace. You are building a CBD, you are building of this bungalow or shop or maybe high rise. That's a unique. Okay, and also within the time frame, temporarily, you need to complete within certain period. You cannot continuously build, constructing the project. unless you have the very, very good financial power, and also a lot of buyer, you cannot, no, I mean, all the while build the houses without stopping, without ending. You need to complete the project so that you can hand over to the client, to the purchaser. Correct? So when you do a planning on it, you need to do the design. When design come out, that's what I said, when design come out already, you need to do a procurement. So you guys know what's the definition of procurement or what's the meaning of the procurement? It's meaning that you are asking people a cost to do this thing.
Resources.
It's not resources. Procurement can be also is something that you are asking for resources, asking for people, asking for team, or asking for cost to build this. This is a procurement process. And then after you procure already, there's a construction line. After you do all the construction already, you need to do a test and commissioning, or else your house no water. There's a water connect to your house, and then you test it. You want to ship. If you do not do a test and commissioning on this toilet flushing, then later on when you use toilet, your ship cannot come out, and so it cannot go into the sewage treatment plant. You are not doing the testing and commissioning. After the whole process, you only hand over to your purchaser. And if let's say, of course, the operation is only referring to certain project that you are doing, like example, only referring to not the industry project or the factory, or maybe for the shopping mall. Or if we don't referring to the construction, we're referring to the marketing. When you launching a product already, your end date done already, right? You launching an iPhone, your product end already. You need to continue to selling the project. Cannot say that after your project, then your iPhone briefly, then nobody come to buy it. You are not doing the operation of the selling. So this one is selling. After you done your launching of the product of your iPhone, then you are selling the iPhone 18. Okay. Okay. Then just now we define on the project life cycle. Okay. Then this is a project management life cycle. We know project life cycle is starting with this facility, planning, tender, construction, and handover. Correct? This is a project life cycle. Then for every project life cycle, facility, you need to have your project management life cycle. You need to initiate doing your facility study. And then you need to plan how you do the facility study. Correct? You need to plan who you want to hire. When you have land, you need to plan who you want to hire. You need to hire consultant. Example, you need to hire surveyor to survey the land. What is the topo? Correct? And you need to consider to hire a planner. How you want to diversify this land. This is a planning. And when you plan, you ask them to do already. Then you need to monitor their progress. Then after that, after the planning, after the feasibility study, you need to close the project. Or they pass you the things already. And you need to see the end project, what you want to do. So you need to start, in your planning and design stage already. So again, repeat the process until the tender, also same thing. You need to start to plan who you want to hire. Okay, what is the process? You need to start to execute, call for tender, ask people to come in to give a price. This one is implementation. So you need to monitor the price. Then during the construction, also the same process. During the handover, also the same process. You need to know who is your owner. If let's say you are constructing a factory project, right? Your owner is a operation team. Okay, then you need to tell him, this manual that you need to, for your machinery, how you take care, what's the so-called maintenance period, and how you operate this. You need to tell him with the also of the manual from your consultant or from your contractor. Right. This one is a typical example for the construction project, but we come back to this. Basically, this is under the PMO or the project management. Again, what's the definition of PMO? Yes, you're right. Basically, I forgot already. Thanks. Right. So, in the project management, just now I talk so much. So, we always remember only three. But basically, it's not only three things that we need to manage. These are the performance that we need to monitor. What are the performance? This one basically is under PMO number 8. The reason why it's number 8 already. Okay, so these are the domain or the item, the performance that you need to monitor. First, you need to monitor on the governance. What does it mean of governance? As in the early morning session, you guys still remember what Dr. Lee said? It's a client requirement. Right? You want to develop a project, you definitely have a client requirement. Or if there's no client requirement, you need to have a certain standard that you need to follow. Example, BS, British standard, or Malaysia standard, or Euro standard, or UBBR. So these are government or the client requirement. Maybe client say, I want this more high technology of the lighting, or more angles, or maybe I want my room, all the glasses. So these are all the client requirement. So in this you need to start to, okay, this one initial, you need to come up with this. What is the product or the tools for this? Projector. Remember this term, I will always talk about this term later on. Right. I think I should make it quick about this page first, then the latest I will review one by one so that you can easier understand. So as what I mentioned, these are the 9 categories, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, 7 performance key index. Or we make it simple. We know everything when we work, we must have one KPI, which is stand for key performance index. These are the key performance index that you need to monitor during your project management. First is about the governance. Second, about scope. When you want to start your project, you must know what is your scope. Scope means what? Your goal, your defined goal. Correct? Just now we are talking about 3 items only. Now we expand it. We expand it more. Remember, 3. Our project 3. Triple constraint. What is the scope? Or the goal? Your goal. Second, when you have scope, you must have money. Then third, you must have your time. Okay, so just now we are talking about triple constraint, these 3 items. But now we need to expand it because it's not only limited to these 3 items. In the project management, what are the items that involved? Besides the scope, besides the scope, schedule, finance or the cost, we also have the stakeholder. We need to know who is our stakeholder. Correct? You need to know who is our investor. Because when you're doing a project, you have your people to manage your investor. Example, if you are not the funder, you should have your own funder, right, to invest in your project. So he is your stakeholder. And then when you're doing a project, you need to know who is your buyer, right? He's your stakeholder also. Correct? So that when you know your buyer, then you only can know that what are the product or that you can successfully sell it to him. Your target, who is your targeted buyer? Either it's oldies or young generation, or maybe it's children or baby or woman. So this is your stakeholder. All is your stakeholder. You need to identify. So during your initial thing project, you need to do these few kind of things. First, you need to identify who is your stakeholder, who is your funder. You need to get a funder if you don't have money. Correct? Because in order to start a project, you need to have these three. Money is important. If you don't have money, you don't have funder, you cannot start a project. After you have money already, you only can define your scope. And then when you want to complete, again, this will be all related to the stakeholder management when you initiate project. So, in this, under the initiating process, governance, as what I mentioned just now, you need to know what is the project requirements, what is the spec that you need to follow, or maybe in certain spec, in certain countries, they have their own policy. Understand? Example, in Malaysia, if you want to invite the foreigners come to invest into Malaysia, right? Foreign investor, you are looking for your stakeholder, right? Your funder is foreign, from foreign country. You need to know what is your policy or what's the Malaysian policy? Can a foreign investor having 100% of the share in the Malaysian company? Cannot, you're right. You only can have certain percentage. So this kind of policy you need to understand. That's why we have governance. This governance is not only limited to the company policy, it's also the national policy or the country policy. Okay? So that's why when you started a project, you need to know, when you initiating a project, you need to know what is the governance that limited constraint. Again, constraint. Remember, the project has a constraint. Okay, all the characteristics of the project. So when you come to the planning process, okay, basically these are the five process under the project management process. When you're initiating a process, you need to meet your KPI, governance, and stakeholder. You need to know who is your stakeholder. And when you doing the planning, okay, for this governance, when you start this, you must have your own project management plan, or actually we name it as a project charter better. In this project charter, it highlight or outline all the things that you want. And then, when you highlight all the things already, right, you need to put it in your scope. You need to start to do your scope management already. What's your scope? Again, we started we use an example for what again? Organize the top. Always use a simple example. Organize the top. We start a project. We organize the top. Okay. So we initiate our project. Okay. So organize the top. What is the item that we need to take care?
Money.
You need an objective. What is objective?
Provide concepts.
First, you need to know. We're using this as a process. Okay. Governance. Okay. Or KPI. Governance. Okay. When you initiate a thought. Governance. This area can occupy how many participants? That's a policy, got Malaysian policy, if not mistaken, under the public area, if you do not apply the permit, you cannot gather all the people. If you want to organize a talk in the public area, you need to apply license from police. Or you need to rent a stadium, you also need to apply you apply permit from police. You cannot simply gather all the people in the stadium or in the open area. So you need to know what's the policy. Okay. Or you need to make sure that the venue is safe for the participant to gather there. Second, policy. You need to know what are the sensitivity of the topic. Policy. Before you start anything, you need to know governance, right? And then you need to identify who is your audience. Who is the audience? Childish? Children, students, and of course, who is your investor who want to invest into your this project. Then you only can start to do your planning already. In your planning, you need to come up with all the policy. You already identify the problem already. Then you need to do to plan your scope. What is your scope? What is your topic? And then what is your timeline? When you want to do this, and how much duration that you have to do this in order to do this in that day? How much duration that you have? Correct? And then how much that you have? Money. Okay. And then after that, you already identify who is your stakeholder, and you need to start plan how you approach them, how you engage with them. And then what are the resources that you need? You need to set up a team. In organizing a talk, what you need? You need MC. You need so what?
Food and beverage.
Yeah, food and beverage. You need to have that team. What else? Speaker. You need to have that so-called what kind of team?
PA system.
PA system team. Then you need to have you need basically, in short, you need to plan on your resources. You need to plan on your committee. Who is your committee? Correct? Then again, when you're doing this event, what are the risks? You need to plan. You need to have the plan. You need to plan for your risk management. You need to identify what is the risk. Then after that, you need to analyze what's the risk of that. Example, let's say you are organizing a talk, thousands of people. This is your planning, correct? Where is it? Under your scope. This is your planning. You have how many target participants? If you organize in the stadium, you have thousands of people. What is the risk?
Crowd management.
Crowd management. So when you have crowd management, you need to come back your resources. You need to have who in your team. Security, police, you need to call police for that, everything, right? So this is how you plan for your risk. And then, when you identify your risk already, right, then you need to have your plan for your risk response. Meaning that you know the risk is clear, then you need to put down this. I need to ask police help, because when you ask police help, you need to pay them some money. So for the fees, no money. Sorry, it's not commercial. It's I think for the first services, or you need to hire a renter to help you. Then you need to plan for your finance already under your budget. So this is a risk. Whatever that you foresee for a risk, right, you put it in your plan of risk response, and then you will come back to this. You need to allocate a budget for this. Basically, these are all the process, okay? And this, all the item here, we name it as a tools. These are tools that you need to put. So under this plan risk response, you need to come up with the checklist. So these are tools. Tools. It's an alat, you know. So and then come to the executing group. How you execute this? So these are the things. Then you need to manage your sponsor engagement, as what I mentioned just now. You find a sponsor already, you find a funder, and you need to plan how you push them. Then after you push them, they agree to give you money, but how you manage this? You need to maybe come up with the agreement and ask them when is their progress payment, everything. This is manage, how you manage. Correct? Then after that, how they give you payment, this one is under the monitor. Just like too fast already. So step by step. That's why we cannot too fast, we must follow step by step. Okay? Then example. When we met, during our executive, the process, we need to validate our work scope, confirm already this is what we want to do. Example, we plan to hire 5 speakers in that talk or the symposium. So we need to validate. How we validate? You need to confirm whether they got time or not. Their time is sweet or not, right? This one is during executive. Then after that, for the scope, you need to monitor whether before on that event or on that symposium talk, you need to make sure whether you need to monitor continuously, whether they are okay to come or not. If they are not okay, sometimes maybe that speaker is suddenly he got an event on that day. So we need to have backup plan. That's why this one when you planning for the risk already, you also need to put up in here. If let's say speaker A in that day unable to come, who is your backup plan? So when you planning for 5 speakers, basically you need to have maybe 6 or 7 speakers in your planning. You cannot just have 5 speakers. So this is under one of the risks that you need to put in. Okay. So after that, you need to monitor. Okay. Where's my mouse? Okay. You need to manage and control your speaker. You need to ensure they able to come. If not, they able to come. Of course, when you already put out in the list in your risk response already, that's your backup plan. So you need to monitor. That's why when coming, you need to monitor. You need to validate first. Then after that, you need to monitor whether they can come or not. If they cannot come, then you need to put out your list of risk. And then if you hire or you find another speaker, you need to have budget because the speaker may be expensive. So you need to have the risk response, and then this risk response always will be related to the money when you manage your scope. Okay? And then of course, during the monitoring you need to make sure everything is on schedule. Everything that you go for is on schedule. And then you need to control your finance. Cannot say that now you have 1,000 budget. After that you spend for 2,300. So where is the budget come from? Of course, if you already out of budget you need to come back to this already. Manage your sponsor. Ask for more money. Okay. And this one always you need to close monitor with them, communicate with them, with the stakeholder. And then for your resources, also say, this one is related to whether your team that you appoint able to attend for that day's symposium or not. So you need to monitor. And also during the symposium, you need to manage them, you need to tell them what are their tasks. If you don't tell them, they just do nothing. You need to have one task list. That is how you manage your resources. And then, of course, in August, you need to start to monitor your risk, whether to see your risk that you put in, anything or not. Any further risk. Because within the risk, still got other risks, Maybe risk A got the risk A, B, C, or C, D, E. So we need to monitor closely. Then, of course, after the end, we need to close the project. We need to check to validate whether it meets with our goal or not. This is the whole process that we are, for any of the project, it's not only the symposium talk, maybe for a construction project also the same. So these basically are the 7 KPI that we need to achieve. Governance, scope, schedule, finance, stakeholder, resources, and risk. It's not only limited to these 3, which is the scope, finance or cost, and last is the time. Okay. I have briefed you guys just now what are the project management process, which is first is initiative. Initiating means that actually you establish your project vision, you establish what you want, okay, and then purpose and align with the organization's strategy or the. We know that in every organization, they definitely will have their own mission or vision. So what is the vision of your company? What is the mission of your company? If your mission of company is organizing a talk, but your company is constructing a project, is it meeting your organization vision? Is it meeting your organization vision? Because your company only expert doing the event only, it's not expert to do the construction, unless your event company become the funder or become the stakeholder, then you can start this process, doing the construction project. But your company need to hire a project management team to help you to manage. Your event company is only expert to do event project, not the construction project. But if you want to build a construction, you need to become a stakeholder or funder to ask the construction team to help you to manage. Okay? So, I think just now I already briefed your guy all these 7 scope. What is governance? What is the scope? What is the schedule? What is the finance? What is the stakeholder? And the resources and the risk. So, these basically are the 7 project management performance domains. Means actually, to me, we define it as the layman terms, as a KPI, key performance index. For example, what is the key performance index that your mother gives it to you or your parents give it to you? I want you to achieve your 7 A's. How you achieve it? I want you to achieve full A. How you achieve it? So these are the key performance that you want to achieve. Okay. So there are the process, 5 process group. Again, what is the 5 process group? Initial, plan, execute, monitoring, and closing. Okay. Just now I always mention about project constraint. Basically, project constraint is consist of these 3 what is the scope, what is the cost, what is the time. So basically, if you take up the project management PMP courses, you want to take this accreditation. When you attend the examination, this is a question that he always asks you: what is the project constraint? So these are open answer. So these are the project constraints that basically in managing a project to measure these 7 key performance these 3 are the most important. If without these 3 you cannot start any project. Why? Because if you do not know what is your project what scope, you do not know how much that you are spending. If you don't have the money, you also cannot meet your project or scope. And also you need to have timeline. You cannot make this project become very long because it will burn your money. So this always is a triple constraint. The longer period of your project, the more money that you need to invest because of manpower. You need to pay them salary. So basically, in this 7 key performance, these 3 are the most important that we need to understand. Okay. Just now I just want to give you guys an example for under this governance. So under this key performance or the key performance governance, which is government is the first key performance, right? Okay. So under this key performance, the initial process basically what I sharing with you all guys now actually is a scientific approach. Meaning that under this key performance governance, we need to have input. What is our input? We need to have business documents. We need to have business case. Meaning that actually, that's what I highlighted just now. What you want as a client, what you want. And then, of course, the other one is the enterprise environmental factor. Meaning actually is what the country policy. Okay? And then the last is the organizational process. What is your company policy? What is the process? What is your company policy? What is your company mission? Okay? And then by having this input, of course, another one is agreement. Because if let's say you are doing the project with the client, you definitely have an agreement with them. So example, if you are a developer of the data center, you need to build a data center to suit to your client requirement or your tenant. If let's say your tenant is a TikTok, so your tenant want to occupy how much of IT load. Example, if he requires for 30 megawatts, then this is a room that you tender to him. So this is an agreement between you and your organization as a data center developer. So this is agreement. So this is input. So by having this input, you need to have the tools and technique. As what I said, when we're doing a project management, it's a scientific approach. Scientific always referring to you must have the step process. And by having this process, you must have the tools. Meaning that actually any of the documents or any of the example we can see from here easier. How to come up with this business case, business documents? You need to have your expert judgment, right? You need to have technical consultant to tell you what you want to do, or you need to hire the expert. You need to have your staff who are expert in this field tell you what to do. Then what you need to do, you need to gather all the data. How to gather the data? You need to have a focus group meeting, maybe a small group. Then you need to have brainstorming, or you need to interview people. And then, who is the leader for this small group? then he need to have the interpersonal skill to lead for these items. When there's a small group, definitely will have the conflict. So that person, or actually always we refer to project manager, he need to be able to manage the conflict. He need to always have a meeting. That's why we call it meeting management. We need to have meeting management. If without meeting our focus group, then we cannot come out with the result. We cannot come out with this document already. Correct? And then we need to have the responsibility matrix. That's why I said you need to have one task list for your committee that you form. Security, this can be group A, he need to take care of which asset. Security team B need to take care of which asset. Okay, security C, same well. Or maybe MC, you have 2 MC or 1 MC. Then each MC will have the different script. Or maybe 1 MC will talk about Mandarin, 1 MC will talk about English. Okay? So basically these are the tools and techniques. Okay? Then after that, what's the output? From this governance, the output will be the project tractor. That's what I said. I wrong. It's a project tractor. Basically, it's a business case. Inside this will contain all the items. Later in the last chapter, I will tell you what is the project tractor and what is the content inside that. Okay, and maybe assumption log. So all the things that you want to do, put it inside. Then they form up with the documents. Okay, I repeat again. In the governance, these are the input that you expected, okay, that you need to put, and these are the tools and techniques that you need to follow, and these are the output. So these are the always we need to have one input, and then in between need to have the process of the tools the tools of technique to change your input to become output. So under the first KPI governance, your output will be the project chapter or the assumption log. Okay. I just use one example of the KPI because under this for the 7 groups. So then normally in the full project management courses will consist of 4 to 5 days. So today we only have 4 hours. That's why I will brief you on about one chapter or one process group only. So let us recap. Just now we are talking about project life cycle. Second is a differential between the project life cycle and project management life cycle. And third is about the mapping from process group to the performance domain, or layman terms I call it as a KPI. What is a KPI that we need to meet? Which is the 7th. What's the first?
Governance.
Governance. Second? Scope. Third? Finance. Schedule.
Oh, that's
Not risk yet.
Risk, not yet. Last.
5 resource. The 7
Procurement.
Yeah, 6 is resources, correct?
5 is
procurement.
risk 5.
Yeah. Then resource, and then risk. Okay. You passed the module 2 already. So basically, in the whole project management, there are 5 process groups, which are
initiative, planning,
planning,
Executing.
executing, monitoring,
controlling,
Closing.
monitoring and managing, and last is closing. So now you know the whole project management process and also the 7 KPI that you need to meet already. Okay, you pass your first or second module of the project management fundamental already. Okay. Just now we talk about the key performance that we want to meet. Okay. Then now we are talking about process management process, which is about the 5 process. But now actually, it's a five process. But before the 5 process, there are the 5 process about the first thing that we need to have is when you start a project, you need to have your business case. You need to know what you want to do. If let's say you are the marketing company, ask you to consult a project, cannot. You are only able to do the marketing of the product, example, soft launch of the Apple or soft launch of the Samsung product or Samsung phone. You cannot go to construct a project. That's why we need to have a business case. Your business case is constructing a project, example. So in the project management, again, there are 3 project constraints. What are they? First, project constraint.
3.
Scope, time, cost. These 3 are always related. Remember, without the scope, you don't know how much that you need to spend. Without the money, you cannot implement your scope. Okay, and without a known timeline or duration, you cannot know how much money that you want to spend or invest. So that's why these 3 items we name it as a project triple constraint, and they are interrelated each other. Okay. So there are 5 project management process. So first we need to have what is the business case or what is the proposal. You need to have the proposal first one, as what you say just now, proposal. And then you only start with your initiative, planning, implementation, controlling, monitoring, and close up. So there are 5 project management process that you pass the module 2 already. Okay? So now we try to go into the detail for this. So this one, we know we need to have the potential project, and then investment, decision, and then come up with the business case and approve the project. Then we only can start our business case. So in this business case, how we transit the business needs to a project. Again, if we remember on the chapter 2 or module 2, for the construction project, first is what we need to conduct the feasibility study. So this is a business case. We need to have the client. If no purchaser, no client, the project that you do, is it any meaning? You cannot sell a product you do project for what? Correct? That's why we need to understand what is the need of this product. What drive the investment into this proposal? Right? Currently, we see in the Johor market, there's a need to build all the high-rise or the resident project. Why? Why there's a need?
Increasing population or investment.
One, I think the main reason is because of government build the RDS from Singapore, connected from Singapore to Johor. Meaning that a lot of people will come and stay in the Johor, and then they can travel with a short distance to Singapore to earn for 3.5 times of the. Okay. So 3 only. I thought 3.5. Okay. So still 3 Okay. So now we regular basic on this wrong. Okay. So that's a bit. That's why recently for the past 3 years, there's a booming of the resident project, high rise, right? All of us can see high rise, especially high rise project. Why? Because if the local Johor, they won't buy the high rise one. They will buy the landed because of value. But why high rise is booming? because it's people from other stage, they come in, they stay in the high rise, they feel secure because of security. And then when they are not full time staying in the house, they are working in Singapore. They only come back to stay during that time. So high rise is safe, secure, safe. That's why there is booming on high rise, especially near to the tier 1. You know where's the tier 1? Near to the custom, so custom tier 1. Which is Taman Pelangi, Taman where? Taman Pelangi, Taman JB area, yeah. So Taman Daya, no, Taman Daya is on the side. There's a tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 all the Zoom. So that's a business case. That's a need. The need. That's why the developer only decided what to invest for the high rise, right? So we say current need, what's the current need? And future need, which is after the RTS fully operate already, then we'll have a lot of people come in to stay in Johor and work in Singapore. That's why high rise required. So that's a need. And of course, need to align with your company policy. If your company always construct or building the industry, you're able to build a high rise or not? Unless you hire another team. Okay, I just say your company structure. Or maybe I say, if your company is doing manufacturing of the glove, currently your company is not suitable to change or to divert into the property yet. Unless you hire another team, unless you change your business strategy. That's why I said you need to align with company strategy first. Then the next step, you need to do competitor analysis. Right? You need to know who is your competitor. You need to know who are they and what they offer to. If let's say they all building the Soho at the 300,000, you want competitive, you also build a Soho. They build a Soho, maybe let's say 450 square feet. Then you build with the 300,000, and you build a Soho with 500 square feet with 300,000. If you are the purchaser, which project that you want to buy? Definitely 500 square feet, right? So you need to know who are your competitor and what they offer to. So you just can plan ahead on your selling price. Okay? And then what the risk? The risk might be oversupply. So you need to know the timing to go in to invest into the area. Right? Then of course, as what we mentioned earlier, what's the ROI? If this project you only can earn 1% in the land A, and in the land B you can earn for 10%, which land that you want to go? Land B lah. Correct? But if let's say both land A you only can earn 1%, you still want to invest. Better you put that money into and then put into the bank. Now the bank fixed interest is 3%, right? So that's why you need to understand what is your ROI and how many of your return, how many years of your return. Okay, so this basically is a business case. So when you start a project, you need to have the business case. And basically this is an example of the tools that I mentioned. This is a form that you need to fill up. You need to do a equation. You need to come up with your cost benefit analysis. Okay. So this is a cost benefit analysis. Meaning that the conclusion is the total cost that you invest and what is the return on the investment. As what we mentioned in the morning session, the return on investment should be maximum 7 years or less than 7 years. Then that only considered as a good ROI. If ROI more than 7, better don't invest. You put into FD better. Okay? Of course, your payback period, your project duration, and then the constraint assumption that you make, and the potential project risk for your resources. Example, you want to build a project in Johor. You may face the risk of the less resources. Reason being, all the people go to Singapore because 3 times of currency rate. That's the risk of the resources. Maybe when you list out all the risks, you can have the approach. Like we go back to that. Okay, the financial, the budget, you need to increase your budget already. So your selling price of the house need to increase already. Correct? Okay. Excuse me. So basically, just now in that form, right, we have filled out the cost benefit analysis, constraint assumption, the project execution, and the risk. And this is the preparation, preparation of the business case. All the items that you need to put in when you do this business case. So these are the items that you need to fill out, that you need to do the analysis. Okay. Okay. It also says the purpose of the business case is to describe the cost and benefit for the decision made either to proceed or not. Example, you want to construct this project, the cost is 100 million. Your money is only 80 million. You still want to invest? Meaning that actually the cost is the cost that you spend, and the total return that you get is 80 million. The cost that you spend is 100 million. You want to invest. Actually, you're losing 20 million. You still want to invest. So the decision is not to go on. But if let's say in project A, your cost event is still 100 million. For project A or land A, your benefit is 120 million. Which your cost benefit analysis is no. Let's spend that. Oh, sorry, here. Okay. That's it. Project A, Project B. We know the cost mark. Let's say the cost is 100 million. Project B, the cost that you spend still 100 million. Okay, we assume the same. The cost can be the model that you have. Okay, can we understand that as a model that you have? And benefit. Benefit meaning that actually is the total return, total money that you take back. Let's say it's 120 million, and project B is 110 million. So the formula cost benefit ratio is equal to cost. Let me see. Benefit over cost. Project A is 1.2. C over B ratio. Project B is 1.1. Correct or because of benefit divided by cost is 110 and 100. Which project that you go for? Project A, you're right. Agree? Project A to go for? Let's say project C, your cost is 100 million, but your return is 80 million. What is your CB ratio? 0.8. You want to go for project C or not? That's what. But in order for you to come up with this cost and the benefit, there's a lot of process that you need to involve. As what I mentioned, you need to have the initial. Second is what idea? Planning. executing, manage, and closing. Then you come up with this business case. Okay, we come back to this. After we decided which to go, then we need to start with the initiating process. Under this project actor, stakeholder, project team up, during initiating, we need to, okay, after we come up with everything already, we need to come up with one project actor, chapter. What's the project actor? In there, what's the, okay. Later in the chapter 4, I will tell you the more, what's the project actor. And then stakeholder, who are the stakeholder? And the project team up, you need to set a team. So during the initiative, okay, we need to identify why this project carry out. We already have the business process. We know project A need to go already. Correct? Business process. We need know project B need to go already. Then we need to planning for this. Transfer this business case documents and contract and we need to know all the external party, external factor. Sorry. So external factor means who are get involved, authority. We need to know this land when we procure for land A, who is the majorist, right? Then who is the potential buyer? If your potential buyer or the stakeholder, okay, your potential buyer is Singaporean, then you need to target for Singaporean, okay? And then you need to come up with the description of project brief, the summary, the high level of project. Meaning that you need to target who is your target purchaser, what is your total support, total benefit or total return that you will get, what is the total cost, and the project requirement. Everything you must list out. If you target for Singaporean, you cannot tell him that I only give you ceramic tiles, I need to give you a marble. Because you are target for Singaporean. So these are the project requirements that you need to list out what you want. I mean, what you want to provide in this project. Because you already got a target buyer already, then what you need to target, what are the product that you need to give it to them. Mean that actually this is a project requirement. And of course, the acceptance criteria you need to set. I want to have the marble within this range of the price, and then this marble must be imported from Italian example. Then during the procurement part, you cannot import from China or anything. Okay? So you need to come up with your acceptance criteria. Okay. So basically this is an example of the project chapter. Then you need to list out everything. Okay. And then in the initial, we need to manage the stakeholder, correct? Who are our stakeholder? You need to list out everything. Like example, owner, professional, main con, subcon. You need to know who are the main con, who are the subcon, or who are the consultant that you want to appoint. And then if let's say it's authority, you need to list out. And also, what are their influence? What are their influence? That's why actually there is one table that we will always put. Who is your stakeholder? And you need to know what is their influence. Influencer. I believe there is a matrix. You guys know that? I think it's 4. So you need to come with this table and distribute out who are your stakeholders and what is their influence and how much level that they influence to your project. Okay? And of course, from this table, you need to list out the strategy, how you use their influence to make successful of your project. Okay, so basically, these are the table. Okay, your stakeholder, and what's the impact, what's the concern, what's the strategy that you need to put, and what's the priority. If they, example, you want to build a land, you need to know who is the majlis. You just put it, who is the majlis, and then what are the authority that involved. If let's say you are choosing a land near to the sea, and you are choosing a land near to the jungle, and you are choosing a land in the city, so majlis authority that get involved will be different, no? Okay? Example, your land, project A, your land is in the near to the sea. What are the authority or department that you need to approach? One of them should be DOE, Department of the Environmental. And also another one is Jabatan Perikanan. You need to tell them you want to build a project there, and how much that influence to the this fishing activity, right? Then how you take care of the fish in the sea. So you need to push that. And if you want to build a project in the jungle, you need to cut down all the forests. You need to push. There's one department in France is Department of the Forest City, the forest. Yeah. So if you want to build a project in the city, then you need to push the authority or maybe the GKR and also maybe police to take care of the traffic also during your construction. So those are different stakeholders that you need to push. So this during your initiative process, you need to understand. Then of course, that's why I said you need to know who is your buyer, who is your target buyer. Okay. Then what is the strategy that you need to plan? Okay. These are the four so-called the table that say power, interest. Then you just list them down. Then who has the most power and interest? Then you put it there. Who has the less power and less interest? You put it there. You put it here. Okay. You put it here. Who has the most power and interest? Put it here. Who has less? Put it here. Who has the power but no interest? Put it here. Who has the less power but interest? Put it here. So you just list out all the things into this matrix, and then later on when you manage your stakeholder, you can based on this chart to manage. But during initiating process, you need to set up project team. So you need to set up all the responsibility of the project team. Example, in the project team, you need to have full project manager. You need to have maybe if let's say your project is a data center, you need to have mechanical project manager. You need to have the CNS project manager, and you need to have the electrical or mechanical or maybe aircon special HVAC consultant or HVAC project manager. And you also need to have testing and commissioning manager. If not, nobody help you to do testing and commissioning of your data center. In data center term, we call it CX. CX. Commissioning. What you mean X actually basically is level 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Each level will have the different process. That's why you mean X. And C is the commissioning. That's why we say CX1, CX2, until CX5. So in this testing, if let's say for the construction of the data center, we need to have the commissioning manager, which is you need to set up project team. And then, in your project team, you need to have consultant, and you need to identify who is your contractor, who is a specialist to do the data center project. Okay, and then from here, you need to know the limitation of your team member. If let's say you are appointing a female, sorry, shouldn't say this. It's a discrimination. Okay. Okay. If you are recruiting a project manager who has no data center experience, then you need to expect he will unable to plan ahead for what need to do for the data center. But if he is hardworking, then you need to give him more information for him to study. That's how you manage. You need to understand the limitation of your team member. So when you want to set up your team, initial team, you want to set up a team. When you appoint your team, if you already think that he has no experience, and you can appoint other project manager has more experience in data center, then much well you spend more on it, you hire a project manager has a more data center experience instead of this manager have no data center experience. But that's what you need to. But your limitation will be because a project manager in data center experience will be expensive than project manager that in non-data center experience. So that's if you have the project budget constraint, then you have no choice. But if you have the budget, then you can hire this. That's why you need to know all your constraints before you set up a team. Like example here, you say lack of knowledge, lack of experience, in poor performance. If I say the contractor poor performance, and then if there's inadequate communication between each other, so you need to come up with a plan. Later I tell you there's one name called it communication plan. You need to tell them what is a communication party. But that will be in the planning stage. Now we are talking about initiative. Okay. Come to planning. So in project planning, we will have project planning, procurement planning, risk planning, and project team planning. In the project, if we fail to plan, then we need to plan to fail. Okay. I forgot who talked on it, who is initiating this phase. There is one person very famous one, I think I forgot the name already. But what happens if we fail to plan? Okay, that's the impact. You need to remote, you need to do OT, the project might be delayed, or there is an additional cost to cover the delay or to mitigate the mistake, then you will have the cash flow issue. Because normally when you plan for a project, you have the duration. Your budget already spent on that already. Maybe let's say you have the duration for 10 months. Your budget for your resources already budget for 10 months for your resource for your whole project team. If let's say your project delay another 2 months, you need to pay for additional 2 months. Correct? Then there might impact on the relationship with the contractor. Because if the project delay, then the project team, the client side will be quarrel with the contractor. And also with any relevant stakeholder, as let's say your investor. If let's say your investor is come from there, then you need to pay for interest. So there will be the impact. And of course, impact on the image, your professional image. If this person failed to plan one and all his project is delayed correct? And also company project. If between two companies, if one developer his project always delay, will you dare to buy his project again? Simple. So in the planning, what we need to plan? First, we need to plan for scope. Agree? Then second, we need to plan for the cost. And then we need to plan for the schedule, triple constraint. Okay? After that, we need to plan for procurement. Who are the contractor, who are the consultants that we want to ask them to come in to participate for procurement process. I think this should be planned for resources first. Plan already, then we only plan for the procurement. When they come in, the procurement there, some process that you need to follow. And then of course what are the quality and safety on site, and of course the communication that I mentioned just now, communication. You need to have one communication plan so that the consultant or consultant know who to communicate. Okay. Planning, start date, submitted date, major event, key develop, completion date. We need everything. We need to establish a milestone. This is a plan for schedule. Okay, that's milestone. When, start date, completion date, major deliver date, payment milestone. This one, and what is the long lead item that mentioned by Dr. Lee in this morning, and what's the major delivery. Planning schedule. Why, what, how? Why? We need to optimize the planning. We cannot make our planning longer. The longer that you plan, the more money that you need to spend. Agree? Then we need to utilize the resources on our hand. So if let's say 10 resources, these 10 resources that you have basically if let's say they can do for 2 projects, of course you make them do 2 projects, you more save money as a boss. But if you as a staff, I only want to do 1 project. Okay. And with why we need to plan for a schedule? With the schedule, we can monitor the progress, and we can know what is our critical path, what is our critical item or issue, and then what to monitor or what inside. We can compare with the schedule. We can compare what is actual progress and also what is the plan. After we know the issue already, then we only know how to mitigate the issue, right? And of course, with this schedule, we can visualize the relationship between the activity, whether this activity is left behind or ahead. So with this schedule, we can understand the sequence of the activity. Okay, with schedule, let's say example. Sorry. I give you an example. In order to build a building, just say simple example. Building. This is a ground. In order to build a building, without schedule, can you understand the sequence of work? You know what's the sequence of work? Step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. Can you build a building from the roofing? Impossible, right? So the sequence will be, we need to excavate the earth first, and then build the footing, column star, backfill, and then build the column, beam, slab, build all the so-called skeleton of the building, and then only build the roof and then the skin of the building, which is wall. After build everything already, we only can build maybe let's say got the aircon, we build the aircon, got the light, we build the light, got the so-called, what else? Piping, let's say toilet bowl, everything we build already. This is a sequence. But sequence, as what I highlighted earlier when we doing this Gantt chart. So yeah, we cannot follow Gantt chart nowadays. This Henry Gantt is old school. If we follow him, we follow step by step. Without mapping of activity, then the project will be very long. That's why we must follow per or CPM, of course, is a per of CPM. In the actually is activity 1. Basically, when you do activity 1, your activity 2 and 3 can be together. Oh, sorry, this one is 4, this one only 5. 2, 3, and also 4 can do together, and then only maybe 2. Actually, these 2 can do 3. 3 together. And these 3 can be 4. And this 4 can be 5. Then we know which is critical. Basically, we can do it one part, area by area. We don't need to complete everything, then only go up. So this is a term. Okay. We cannot follow Henry. Okay. So when we understand this sequence already, okay, how we do it? That's why we have this so-called work breakdown structure. All the activity we list out in details. Okay, and together with duration, how many days that we complete this, and how many resources. Okay. When it comes to the scheduling, what we need to consider? The actual situation, and also the realistic time of duration. When we do this, especially, okay, example, when we do an excavation, we know that this one is a rainy season. Do you think that you dare to say I can complete within 5 days for excavation? You need to consider for raining. For that month. That's why the excavation the excavation for the volume of the earth for the project A, project B, and at a different time, you cannot put it at the same duration. You need to consider the timing, whether your project A, if let's say awarded or started during the rainy season, you need to allocate for more buffer of the duration. That's why you need to understand the velocity of timing or others. Okay? And of course, the lead time. Lead time meaning is what you know. All the activity, but maybe there's activity of the procurement of the transformer as mentioned by Dr. Lee. Transformer. How long of the procurement? That's why basically installing of the transformer maybe can at the later stage when everything covered. But you cannot put it at a later stage to order for transformer, right? Maybe you should start during this activity already. You need to procure your transformer. Because your transformer, the lead time may be 3 months to 6 months. So when up to 6 months, your whole building, everything completed, but you need to do the architectural work like painting, everything. This transformer can go in to install in the transformer room and then do testing and commissioning. You can do it concurrently. That's why you need to consider the lead time for every equipment. So these are things that you need to come with the planning. Okay? And then we need to do the work breakdown structure. Okay? Why we need to do the breakdown structure? That's why I said procurement of this is part of the breakdown structure. You need to consider, or else you will forget. Right? You will thought that I have the one major item. I do big, I construct a column only, or I construct structure, I construct a wall. But I forgot to put in the M&E item. And then I would say my M&E item will be construct after my structure all done, architectural wall all closed, I only do my M&E work, right? But you forgot to consider about procurement. So this one you need to put up another major item for procurement. And procurement, what are the items? You need to procure transformer. What else? What are the long items that you can think of for the building? Chiller. That one is not for residential. That one is maybe for shopping mall or industrial building. Chiller, transformer. Those are the long items. So you need to come up with the work breakdown structure. Okay? And of course, it will tell you that when you break into the small pieces, then it's more easier to manage and you have more idea what you need to manage closely. Okay? That's a definition of the work breakdown structure. Later I'll show you what is that. And critical path. Critical path is, you see, all the item already. So, and then only come to this, maybe item 6. Only can go to item 7 or item 8. Before, okay, when you want to complete a project from item 1 to item 6, what is the longest time that you take? So this is a critical path that you take in order for you to proceed the activity 7. You need to achieve the activity 6 completion first, right? But from activity 1 to activity 6, this is the longest time frame that you need to use in order for you to proceed with activity 7. That is we name it as a critical path. That's why. Still remember our definition earlier? Per and the CBN. These are after Mr. Henry Grant. The time I think is about 1970s time. So currently, basically, we are still approaching this method when we do the scheduling. It's a per or the CBN.
Okay. You need the particular ones. Is the most important, cannot be delayed one.
No, it's not saying cannot be delayed. Critical path means actually it's a longest activity for you to start activity 1 to until the activity 6, which is this activity 6, right, must be complete by the early activities first, then only come to the activity 6. So this is the longest period before you can proceed to the activity 7 or the completion of the project. Okay? This one, for this item, outside the top of the course require 2 days or 3 days for you to learn. I cannot describe to you within 1 hour or what. So this one is
software for this scheduling.
You can normally people will use the Primavera to come up with this critical path. Microsoft project normally will come with the network diagram only. Okay, or the per network diagram. Later I will introduce. It's not saying introduce. I'll share you what the software that can use for the scheduling. Of course, when you're planning on the schedule, also will be limited by the resources. How many people, how many team that you have in order to complete this task. So these are the or how many resources are available resources for you. Okay, if let's say this area, again I still say example. You have 50, 50, 50, 50. You have 14. Normally maybe 50 meters square of the slab. You completed maybe 1 week. So if let's say you have 2 teams, then you need to complete 2 weeks. If you have 14, then you can complete 1 week. So when you're planning for these resources, the total area that you can complete already is already constrained within that area also team member, and it can complete within that 1 week. But if let's say you only have 2 resources, 2 teams, then you cannot complete the 100 meters square step within 1 week, definitely 2 weeks. So if let's say you want to cut short your duration, then you have to employ for 4 teams. So this when you do the scheduling, you need to consider this. Okay. So others. In the planning, we also need to plan for the resources. As what I highlighted just now, we need to have the organization chart. Who are the project team members? What is the staffing plan? What are the skills they require? How many people? Shift. If let's say you want to complete this area, because the area already limited, so people doing work also have the limited space. But if let's say you put in longer time, you can complete earlier. That's why come with the shift. But if let's say you have the shift, again, it's related to money lah. You need to pay OT for the workers. And then, of course, you need to cover a role and responsibility lah. Example, who you need, project manager, project supervisor, or the testing commissioning, CS lah. And what is the education requirement? People need to, the project manager need to have the data center experience, or the industry, or high rise. So these all are related to the resource planning. Okay. These are the schedule tools that we mentioned just now. You can use Microsoft Project. Google Sheet also can. You just put up all the items. This will be the Gantt chart. And Microsoft Excel also same. Primavera can come up with this PERM or the CBM. It can calculate what's the longest activity. Okay. When you key in everything, it will come out with this PERM for you, or the networking diagram. And it will tell you what's the longest activity, what's the CBM. How many days are basically in order for you to achieve from activity 1 to activity 6, the longest activity. And it will tell you what's the longest activity. It will give the longest path for you to tell you. So for this longer path, you cannot miss out any activity, If let's say you miss out activity 2, then it will affect the whole thing already. Okay? Come with everything, we need to plan for the risk. So what is the risk? Example, the risk that I can tell in Johor development. Your project manager or project team maybe do one half year or 1 year before a project complete. Then maybe you will go to the Singapore 3 times currency. If let's say you if let's say you want to save money, you don't want to employ the Johorian, because Johorian maybe their salary will be higher, because the living style, the expenses only higher only because of the currency. Or Singapore come here to expand. So you don't want to hire Singaporean, you hire from KL. You thought that it will be cheaper, but your risk will be one day during half a construction period, he will jump to Singapore to earn for 3 times currency. So there's a risk. Hey, now KL project manager salary is lower than the Johor project manager. He should know, he can feel. Okay. This is one example of the risk, and they have several risks that we can list down.
You can have a contract. They suddenly resign need to give a compensation.
No. The staff only will give the notice period of 2 months or 3 months to company only. Cannot suddenly resign. Under labor by law, if the employer or employee suddenly resign, he need to pay. He need to pay the compensation to the company.
Yeah.
Okay. So basically, these are the risks that I mentioned. Not only risk plan for the resources, as what I mentioned, we also need to plan for the risk of the financial, political issue, technical, warranty, contract agreement. Contract agreement. You need to know what is your agreement with the purchaser. You need to give them 2 years warranty, right? Of housing, let's say 2 years, right? Remember? So you need to make sure your product is of the quality. So these are the risks that you need to mitigate during your planning. And then, this basically are the risk workbook that we can put in. Let me see. Okay. It's not this. Oh, yeah. So these are the risks. Contract. So everything put it here. Okay. Contract agreement. So these are the risks. Penalty. What's the penalty? What's the LD? Liquidated damages. The customer delivery. So this one, everything you put it here. the risk. Then the supply chain, the resources, like example, I mentioned just now, manpower, their skill, the capacity, their ability, and also the contract with your staff. How many months or what period? So supply chain and your customer, so these overall are the risks that actually we have put out in this log. Okay, maybe. So these are risks. The tools that I'm using. Remember, in the project management, there's a tools for every process. So these are tools that I'm using. So these are costing. We need to plan for the cost. So these are the cost estimation and also the forecast that we need to manage. These are example of cost. The cost estimation for the project. So, and this is procurement planning. But of course, every company has their own procurement process. So when you join the company, then you need to understand what is the procurement process before you hit the stone. Because procurement process is a bit sensitive and quite dangerous. Sometimes, if you breach the procurement policy, you may get sued by the company for breach of your professional ethic or your ethical. So that's why I said different company will have the different procurement. So we need to follow a procurement policy. And then these are basically the standard process. So we need to pre-qualify the supplier or contractor, and then qualification when ask them for tender, ask them to have a qualification process, and then come with the selection vendor's recommendation. But this one, unless you are working as a procurement manager or the contract manager, so I don't think this one I would like to brief in details because this one normally project management will not get involved except for procurement. But depends on company policy. Some company policy will allow the project manager to involve in the procurement process. Okay, and then still remember earlier on I have highlighted if we have the whole project team, we need to know who to communicate. That's why we need to have this communication plan. So communication plan not only limited to one page of this matrix, the communication matrix. We need to have the communication procedures and meetings, report. We need to come out sample of reports, the submitters, the distribution route. This submitter need to distribute to who, to upload, to review. Everything actually, as I mentioned, has been defined in the Econex already. When you start a project, you use the Econex, you already define already who and how. But the one is quite expensive, 1 month, 10,000. When you need to pay for the services. And again, I'm not an Econex representative because I used it before. Okay, so these basically are the communication plan. Okay, sample. But now I come to the implementation. Basically, during implementation, this is what we need to do. We need to execute the plan. We have a plan already. So this activity, how many people we need to do, and which area that we need to do, we need to quickly which people go to do already. Or else if you didn't follow sequence, for example, that's what I said. We cannot build a column without building this one. That's why we need to start. But before we build this, we need to excavate first. So how you excavate? You want to excavate the whole thing, then only build this, or you excavate part by part within 4 teams. It depends on the schedule that you plan earlier, then you only implement it. Of course, the whole idea is we don't excavate the whole thing and only build this because you know what? When you excavate this, let's say, raining, this whole ponding, then you need to spend the man hour to pump out the water again, and you are wasting your time. So when we have a good planning, then we will not feel the right? Okay? So this basically implementation stage is something that we implement and we go to review this. And during implementation, we need to, when the contractor on board everything already right, then we need to sit down with them, meeting with them, as what I said earlier, and then validate the work scope with them. And then review the items, review ensure they implement. Because sometimes when the contractor or whoever come in, right, they intend, not say purposely, I say intent. Maybe they miss out certain work scope, but actually in the work scope is they need to do, but they refuse to do. That's why we need to manage and we name it as administrator them. Okay, during implementation. So why we need to do that? Because we need to align with the deliverable. Because when you promise to the client or your purchaser say that you want to give them the marble tile, at the end you give them a ceramic tile, then you die, they will sue you. This is a risk. Okay? During implementation, we also need to have this checklist in order to close the gaps. So, example, we need to have a PO, we need to know what is the contract, we need a drawing, we need a proposal, specification, BQ, in order to make sure you know what contractor need to do. Okay? So, during the project, during the implementation stage, a project manager needs to ensure each gap of the scope, deliverables, is closed and completed. Okay, that's why I say just now. If let's say your scope is asking to put the marble, the contractor put the ceramic, then as a project manager, you need to ask them to take up before they continue. Or maybe early stage, you need to approve for material first. At early stage, you need to ask them to submit the material before they proceed with procurement and before they construct. We cannot wait until they construct. If let's say there's no proper process, ask them to submit for the material submitter and approve, and then procure, and then only implement. Then you direct allow them to implement, then you will have the risk of the delay the schedule and rework. So that's why we need to plan ahead. And during implementation stage, we need to monitor the process. Okay? Then of course, that early stage already, then these are the things. Okay, we need to ensure, ask the contractor to do submission. These are the submission that they need to submit. This is during mobilization. Mobilization means actually when the project starts, contractor want to come in, step in to your project, what you want them to do. Ask them to submit insurance, material statement, safety of work, working permit, transportation plan, and then these are the material. Material are toolings, are machinery, personnel. These are the things that they need to assign in. The working aside, what they need to do, they need to ensure the quality of the workmanship. Of course, they need to have QC manager, and then they need to wear the safety PPE, and they need to have the consultant to support to inspect and to approve their thing, everything. Then of course, related to money, the contractor need to submit for progress claim. Then let the consultant or the client approve, then they only can claim for money. This is during implementation. Okay. So what are the activities involved in the implementation? Basically, these are all the activities. Okay. But prior to start implementation, actually, we need to have a kickoff meeting, project status meeting during progress, and then they need to submit for a progress report. This under the project planning stage, the communication plan. Right? Still remember, communication plan, this is what we plan. And then during implementation, we want contractor to submit for the project progress report, and then we want them to attend for the project or status meeting or project progress meeting. And then, of course, they need to do a testing commissioning, and then we can request the contractor to give a training to their workers and their staff. Maybe some of the workers that they employ do not have a CNE green card or do not have the certain training certificate, then they need to attend training. because under by law, all the construction workers if he is a bricklaying he need to have a CNEB the training certificate. If he is a welder, he need to have the welding certificate. He need to be qualified to become the welders. So these are the training that we will ensure them to do this implementation. So these are the things that we managing the subcontractor. Okay. As what I mentioned just now, when we start the meeting, we need a kick-off meeting. What is the meaning of the kick-off meeting? Do you know?
First meeting.
Yeah, it's a first kickstart meeting. So during first kickstart meeting, what you need to do? You need to give them briefing on the project objective. You need to tell them what is their work scope. You need to introduce your project team to them. You also need them to introduce your project team to you and then you need to tell them all the process. Example, all the submitted process, right? And all the roles. And then of course, during the meeting, you can come up with this responsibility matrix, and then the communication plan, who they can communicate. You need to tell them who is your consultant. Let's say they want to submit a certain thing, but they definitely don't know who to submit, right? It's not saying that they don't want to follow procedure to do a submission. They need to know who to submit. That's why in first kick-off meeting, you need to introduce your team member, brief the contractor on your team members' roles and responsibility, and ensure they are in the same page with you, okay? And if let's say you have any special requirement, you need to tell them. Like example, you tell them, my project is safety first, then they must follow safety. My project is quality first, they must follow quality. This is a special requirement. So this is a progress meeting that you need to do every time. Every week or every month, or maybe twice a week, or maybe some of the project manager require to conduct a progress meeting every day. So these are the testing and commissioning. So these are the every single party's responsibility, owners, subcon, and the training after that, what to do. So these are all things during testing, during implementation. Okay, in the control and monitoring, how we control and how we monitor the project? By using what? Using what? Or using what? What are the tools that we use to monitor and to control the project?
Scheduling.
No, we use, documentation. These are tools. So documentation, what kind of documentation? Letter, email, everything. Letter, email, or what else? How we monitor? Photos, drones. So this is how we monitor the project. And during monitoring the project, what are the items will be potentially incurred? If let's say there is an additional work that client want the contractor to do, that one called VO. Yeah, right. VO is stand for valuation order. So do you think if I'm the client I ask you to do something that not in your work scope example in your project there's no swimming pool, but after that, I know this maybe the China my project mostly China the China purchaser, they like to have swimming pool. I want to build a swimming pool beside one of the green area land. And then consultant say, okay, yeah, can design it. then I ask you, contractor, to do swimming pool for me. Can you say yes or no?
Pay more first.
Huh?
Pay more money first.
Of course, you cannot say that you want me to pay you money first, this one will, as a client, I don't like you already, or next project I don't want you already, of course can right? But how, as a contractor, how you implement that? I mean, during the control monitoring process, how you request? Oh, you give me a drawing first. Without drawing, I cannot build. So this is a proof of the document that client or I want you to do. You got a proof of the document already. I ask you to do. I cannot verbally tell you, hey, I want this, but without any document, how do you build? How do you do? But you need a drawing for me. This documentation. That's why I said documentation. And then we need to versus with the contract document. What is the earlier contract document? If the contract document or the contract drawing do not have a swimming pool, now I give you swimming pool. This is, we name it as a very short order. And then you definitely you cannot say no one, because under the contract, whatever client asks you to do, you need to do during your construction, during your contract period. But you can tell me what is the cost that you involve and what is the additional time that you are required. If let's say I tell you, as owner, I tell you, contractor, I want you still complete on time. I don't want delay. You also cannot say cannot. Can, no problem. But you need additional money. Why? Normally, your people do 8 hours. Okay? But because of this, you need maybe, let's say, extra 60 days. By right, you are allowed to extend for 60 days. But now, I not allow you to exceed this 60 days. I want you to still complete on this day. So you, these 60 days, no problem. You add on resources to do OT. And with this additional criteria, before you start work, you issue me we name it what? I issue an engineering instruction. As a client, I will ask my consultant issue an engineering instruction. Then after that, you issue me cost and the time impact. But I tell you no time impact, then you issue me a cost impact. What's the cost impact? With the additional manpower or resources that you utilize. So you need to ensure I agree first, then you only start work, or else there's no money. As mentioned by Dr. Lee. Remember, if let's say I ask you to do and you direct do already, without telling me the impact, I thought that it's free one. So you do already, you cannot dismantle the swimming pool, right? So by right, during the monitor and control process, I issue you this drawing, you need to tell me the impact first. Then, if I do not say anything, means I agree, then you can proceed. Within certain date, because under the contract, they will say, contractor need to feedback to the client what the impact. Then, client, if let's say got a concern, they will direct negotiate with the contractor on the price, on the VO, and then before they proceed.
Don't need like a physical contract or written or anything.
That's an EI, engineering instruction.
Okay.
Or the instruction come from an employer already. I issue you drawing.
Right.
This is a different from contract document already.
Yeah.
So this is additional one. I issue instruction already. Or else, as a contractor, you don't have any document for you to build a swimming pool. Right? Then, when you, as a contractor, receive this drawing, you need to come back to me, to the client, tell me the cost and time impact. If let's say client insists no time impact, then you will add on more money. So you need to tell me, if you didn't tell me, then you will get no pay. Okay, so this is how we monitor and control. But of course, again, it depends on the contract. In the Malaysian market, there is a different contract. Example, platform. The second is IEN form of contract, and then now actually if for the international project normally using a FIDIC, so it depends on the contract. What contract written, then you as a project manager, you need to know how to administrate the contract or implement. So what I tell you just now actually is a so-called it's a generic approach and procedure, but in every single in different kind of contract, right? It will tell you different kind of the step, so you need to follow. Understand? Because certain contract tell you within 7 days you need to tell the client back what is the impact. Certain contract say 28 days. Certain contract say you or no, every contract also need to the contractor also need to write back to the consultant to the client. Some contracts say client no need to be agree on the cost. As long as the contractor feedback to client, if client silent, maintain silent, means that actually already agree with the cost already. So different kind of contract. So you need to read it details. Okay? Get it? Right. So this is a close up. Basically close up, these are the documents that need to get involved. So we need to have close up meeting. We need to transfer all the documents OMN. 1T OMN stands for operation and manual documents. Some equipments got 1D product and also OMN, how to use it, right? You need to transfer to operation team. That is operation. Not project, operation. And then you need to ensure all the document has been signed, or else the contract is still open. Okay? And of course, normally clients project team will conduct a lesson learned. Okay. So basically, end up of our module 3. So let us recap. In the module 3, we have studied on the business case. Okay. So what is a business case? What's a business case?
Proposal.
Okay. We define labor tag proposal or needs. What you need? What you need? Correct. With the business case, you only can start the project. Without this, you cannot start, right? So it's a business case. And then in the project management process, what are the 5 processes that we are following? What is the scientific approach to manage a project? First, initiative. Second, planning. Third, execution. Fourth, control and monitor. Last, closing. Good. You are passing module 3. Okay. So in the module 4, basically, just one of my project. Okay, one of my project that I'm currently managing, and actually I will try to use all the terms that we learned just now to tell you about the project. So do you want to have a 5 minutes break or want me to continue?
Yeah, 5 minutes.
5 minutes, okay.
Yeah.
Please.